Other two to go. YouTube is good. Facebook is good. All right. Sweet. All right, everyone. Welcome to a bonus week of August. Technology, right? It's great when it works, and it works 99.9% of the time, but the 0.1% when it doesn't work, right? Doesn't work. So we roll with the punches and we do it again. So last week we recorded this episode. A bunch of people were live and they saw it. And we're going to do an encore because we only got about 2 minutes and 37 seconds recorded from it. So we're going to rock and roll again. Although it is September, August, our theme, and I didn't even realize this, but attention and attraction are both A's, and August is an A. I didn't even realize we handled that alliteration, so I'm actually more impressed with our theme for August. So August was attention and attraction, with really the goal of giving you guys some frameworks around how do you, number one, create an ideal client profile. So that was week one, right? We need to know who we're talking to. We need to know the ins and outs. We need to know their problems. Right. For many coaches, right, it's themselves. A lot of people get into coaching because they had their own transformation. So you can kind of play off your own experience. But then other coaches may have a deep expertise in something. But you have to understand the client. And Kane created this really, really cool brand builder. It's a GPT where you simply answer the questions that it asks you, and it helps build out your client profile just to make it a whole lot easier for you. So if you do want that, just comment GPT, and I will make sure that I send that over to you guys, and then you can go through that. Super easy. It's free, even available. Is it available with the free version of ChatGPT?
You can use a free version. Doesn't matter. It doesn't have to be paid at all.
Sweet. So that was week one. Week two, then we talked about an offer. And remember, like, we built these in a very specific way. And so if you are going back through this month and you're maybe just getting started, or you want to revamp your brand and dial it in, go through what we're talking about in this order, because each step builds on the previous, and it makes it a whole lot easier if you go in this order. What we're going to talk about today, content and marketing, a lot of people start there, but then it never really lands because they didn't do these things first. So first thing, ideal client profile. Second thing, create your irresistible offer. What is the offer? What is the deliverable? How are you going to solve the problem that you've defined in your ICP, right? So that's going to be week two. We want to build that offer because we want to eventually move people to that offer, which is how we pay the bills, right? And the step before that is this idea of micro commitments, right? This might be a micro commitment of time. It might be a micro commitment of money. What would be another one?
Information, right? Just lead magnets, name, address, phone number, email address. Anybody who's giving you their information becoming a lead.
Right. This doesn't need to be, most people think of lead magnets as like PDF, but this could be a 7-day challenge, 21-day, anything that kind of moves people closer to your core offer of working with you. Right. And so if you've watched some of the previous episodes, kind of Kane showed you this idea of this bow tie effect where we're bringing people through and eventually bringing them into clients. And then, which leads us to today, which is about content. And then we're going to talk a little bit about some offline marketing too. Most people get screwed up with content because they're just picking and choosing whatever they feel like creating, or whatever meme or reel or whatever might be hot at the time. They just kind of go down that rabbit hole. They spend a lot of time and effort, but it just never really resonates because they don't really have a system and a plan around it. And in the email that I sent out for this particular episode, it's really about creating less content. So it's creating less content better, rather than just trying to create all of this content. Because if you create really, really good content, and Kane's going to share some framework here on how to do it, but if you create really, really good content, you can create a lot of micro pieces out of that all align with your ideal client profile, with your micro commitments, and then ultimately with your offer, right? So that's why we're talking about this in the final week of attention attraction rather than week one. So Kane, give us a little bit of give us like the rundown of kind of your framework around this content, because it's really interesting.
Yeah. Thanks. Good synopsis. And sorry again, last week we got cut off. It was a great episode too, right?
It was.
People didn't get a chance to see it, but like Trevor said, we started this month with ICPs. Who are you actually talking to? Who is that target market? Which is super important. If you haven't gone back through that, please go back to that episode, watch it, go through the custom GPT we created. I see so many people picking a market just because they think like, oh, I should work with this market. It's an easy market to work with, instead of like, I actually enjoy working with these people. Because I still think your market's one of your biggest decisions you make as a business. Like if you pick a bad market, I don't care what kind of business you have. I don't care what kind of like business model and everything else. It's really, really hard to have a good business in a bad market. So please go back and through that and kind of take a look. But like Trevor said, let's just kind of pull this up real quick. I like to kind of think of this as, this bow tie effect that we've talked about a lot. And when we start way over here on the left-hand side of acquisition, this is your ICP, right? This is your 3-ring prospect, your 5 Ps, your 3 Ys, kind of that we talked about week 1. And as he said, we jumped all the way over here to offers. We didn't, go straight through, because we create these little like funnels and journeys and everything. Nothing ever goes straight through. I mean, let's be honest, nobody ever goes through the exact process you want them to do. They jump around a little bit. So we need to get sure your offer is dialed in for that market. And then we work backwards to micro commitments. What can you offer them that makes it a little bit less of a leap, right? It's hard to go from somebody seeing your content and jumping all the way to an offer and a client. It just doesn't happen. So what micro commitments can we have in here that give them, turn them from a prospect to a lead before they become a customer? And today we're going to talk about gifts. This is, our fancy word for the content you create. And the reason we call these gifts is there is no requirement from the person. There is no email to give. There's no, name. There's no opt-in. There's nothing. It's just actual content that you are putting out there in the world to help make sure that customers believe that, or prospects believe that you are the right fit, that you could be the one to help them get them to where they want to be. And there's a reason it goes right here, right? Because most people, what they do is they see your content, and maybe it's linked to a micro commitment, which is always a good idea. And they jump to see the micro commitment, but they don't actually fill it out. We see this all the time, is they don't actually fill it out and then become an off. Like they don't go through this smoothly. What they do is they go to your micro commitment, then they go back and look at more of your content and consume more of your content. And so you need to have what I like to call this binge bank, right? You need to have this whole list of content there for people to be able to go through when they kind of come back and look you up. Because if you don't, they're going to think, is this an actual business? Is this actually somebody who's kind of run this thing? Because I don't see much there. And what we found is it used to always be time on list, right? We had this huge metric that was time on list. We get them on our email list, which is, something we definitely talk about through the micro commitment. But we get them on our list and we'd email them over time. And this was a huge metric of how long can we have somebody on our email list, because eventually they're probably going to buy. This metric is still important, but it's not as important as it used to be. What actually is more important is how quickly somebody can consume all your content. And there's this concept called the 7-11-4. That was like a study done by Google. And what it said is a prospect has to consume 7 hours of content by you across 11 different touch points on 4 different platforms. Like that right away sounds a lot. It sounds very, very overwhelming for a lot of people, because like, how in the world am I going to create that much content? But what we've found is people who do this, who go jump to the micro commitments and come back, they binge your content. They go through it all of a sudden. They see you almost everywhere. And bingers are buyers. And so that's what we want to create, is we want to create this binge bank of people, for people to be able to go through and consume everything you have quickly so that they can move along in the customer journey in a faster rate. Now, if you're overwhelmed by this, I got you. Like, don't worry. It seems overwhelming. It's not that bad. What you need to do, kind of the minimal viable product that we talk a lot about, and we love minimal viable products, we want to get something out the door, is you need 6,000 word articles. And these are going to be about your pillar content, right? You should be able to have 5 or 6 big pillar pieces that you talk about constantly. And you don't need to, like Trevor said, you don't need to talk about everything under the sun. Pick 5 to 6 main pillars that you talk about, and some can be personal. Actually, some, it's very good to have it personal. I love playing pickleball. Like one of my pillars might be talking about pickleball, because somebody who also likes playing pickleball is going to be attracted by that, get into my ecosystem, and then realize, hey, they talk about this health and fitness stuff too. I want to work with them. So you make that connection at a personal level right away. From there, you need to break this down into 12 500-word articles. On top of that, you want 6 5-minute videos, 12 2.5-minute videos, 1 5,000-word article, a really big in-depth piece, and then you want 1 60-minute masterclass that you could teach on a concept, and then 3 third-party podcasts. This is really all you need, which again, it might sound like a lot, but what you do is these don't have to be all unique, right? We're talking about repurposing content a lot. So if you are really good at writing, start with these and take that, and you can repurpose that content and create everything else from it. If you're really good on video, start with these. And again, you can take those, transcribe them into articles. You can break those down into smaller articles that flesh out a small topic a little bit deeper. Start with one type of content, either long form written or long form video, and then break them down to get all the other pieces of content that you need, because you don't want to be sitting there trying to create things from scratch. You don't want to be trying to create things every single day or every single week, like, oh, what am I going to talk about this week? You should have your main pillars. You should have your main types of content that you do that you're really good at. And then all you're going to do is take those and you're going to repurpose them down to the smaller forms, and then try to get on third-party podcasts. Why is this so important? Number one, it gives you credibility from other people. You're borrowing their authority. You're borrowing their credibility. The other thing is when somebody interviews you, it positions you as the expert, and you get a ton of great reels, short form clips, article ideas, everything from those interviews. So being on third-party podcasts is a huge, huge way to easily get a lot of content out there very, very quickly. But again, start with long-form videos, long-form articles, and then try to get on podcasts. And from there, just slowly chip away and get the rest of this stuff out there. And when you do, you're going to have this binge bank where people are going to be able to come, go through, and like consume all the content and finally get that belief that you are the right fit for them. It's like, that's where I would start if I was looking at content right today.
Right. Because I mean, the goal of your content, right, is to either, you guys hear this everywhere, right? I either want to attract that person or I want to repel that person. And so
Yep.
I either want them to resonate with me or not resonate with me, which is cool, right? Because we just want to find the people that resonate with us. And that's where Kane was talking about these kind of like, call them like secondary attributes, right? Where maybe you're a weight loss coach, fat loss coach, and maybe your method is macro counting. So you're going to talk deep about macro counting and how that is the way to help your clients achieve success, weight loss, whatever that is. And so someone that's really interested in habits, they probably won't resonate with you because they don't want to count anything. And that's cool because you're looking for the client that wants to track macros. But then you also may be really into like whiskey, right? Or maybe into a spirit or something that resonates with people. Like like think about bourbon, right? There's like an actual culture around bourbon. Like people collect this stuff, right? They drink it, they meet up, they talk about it. There's clubs about it, right? And so this, we talked about this on the last episode that wasn't recorded, but there was a guy that we met at an event where his whole business was around people that liked whiskey. And I think it was called Whiskey Weight Loss or something like that.
Something like that, yeah.
And so like he only attracted people that wanted to lose weight that still wanted to drink whiskey, right? Which is cool. And that really commanded his brand, that commanded his messaging, all of it around this. And so he definitely attracted a very specific person and kind of repelled another one, which is good because if you're playing on the internet, right, you have the breadth of the internet, which is billions potentially of people, probably a little bit less because they need to be English speaking and yada, 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 but like much larger than if you're a brick and mortar. That's an offline, people coming into the facility. You have like a 5 to 10 mile radius around where your place is. And those people need to live in that radius in order for them to come to your gym. Right. And so when we go online, when we go in that world, it just gets way bigger. So we can go a lot narrower and still have enough of like a market to create a sustainable business around. And so, Kane, the question for you is people are going to have questions of like this pillar content. Like, what does that mean? What are some ways that I can, like, or what are some questions I can ask myself in order to figure out what those pillar pieces are? What's some of your kind of like, how do you figure out what those pillar pieces are?
I mean, a couple different things. Number one, I would just start writing down a bunch of topics that you're passionate about, right? Generally speaking, most coaches on here, it's going to be something around probably fitness, lifting, nutrition, whether it be macros, whether it be habit building. Like there's going to be at least 2 or 3 pillars around that concept because that's what you are. Like that is your
Mm-hmm.
profession. The other one should be personal, right? Maybe you love we have a coach we both know really well who loves heavy metal rock music.
Mm-hmm.
Like we have some who love classic cars. One of mine is like my kids and like being a girl dad. Like I resonate with that and I can attract other people who have that same philosophy and they have that thing in their life because they know like I understand what they're going through and I understand kind of how they feel with certain things. And so at least 1 or 2 has to be more personal. I would sit there and I would write down a bunch of pillars that you think, or the topics you think. I would ask people close to you in your life, right? Hey, when you think of me, what topics come to mind? The other thing too, if you are using some AI platform pretty religiously, ask it, right? They have great memories. Like, hey, I'm looking at content based on everything you know about me. What are some main pillars that you think I should talk about?
Mm-hmm.
So I think just doing those things and be either writing things down yourself, asking people close to you, or asking your AI platforms, you at least start getting some ideas. And the biggest thing, and this is where it's really, really challenging, you need to try to find a through line. And a through line kind of cuts through all of your pillars and connects to your micro commitments. This is something that's a little bit more difficult and you're not going to find out right away. It's not perfect. Um, it's definitely going to be a little bit more of a trial and error and like figuring out what works and what resonates with people in your market. But eventually, what you're trying to find is that through line that cuts through all of your pillars into your micro commitments and your offers and kind of make sure it connects all of them together because that's what's really going to be like pouring out into people and really connect with people.
I think a big one there too, Kane briefly mentioned it, is your story. And so if a
Mhm.
lot of people get into coaching because they made a personal transformation or they were burnt out in the corporate world and, transformed their health, and there's that is the common theme in most coaches is you did something yourself and achieved something. And so walking through that story, what your struggles were, what life was like before, what life is like now, and really painting out that picture so that your clients can resonate with that story, because my guess is you want to work with people that want to do a similar or have a similar shift, and really play that story out. And then the other thing Kane talked about was find the medium that works for you.
Yeah.
Personally, for me, I like doing video content rather than doing written content. And then if I do written content, I usually use AI as my editor, where I am just like rough drafting it hard through. And then I use AI to help me kind of make it sound really nice. I think that's one of the best ways to use AI is like your own personal editor. So it can go through and help you flesh out concepts, make sure that it's all good, but you've done most of the writing. And so it's you. And if you've done a lot of writing in your AI, its writing is going to be pretty similar to you as well at this point, which is one of the benefits on continuing to use things. Um, but then if your video, right, you take it, you transcribe it, now you can make it into the things that you want. Another really easy one that I've found is like ask yourself questions. So make a list of like 10, 15, 20, 30 questions that your clients have maybe asked you, and then just answer them on video, right? Like you're
Mhm.
talking to your client, like you're explaining a concept to your client, like you're helping someone, right? And then take that, transcribe it, do all those fun things. And it's super easy now. You don't even have to use like outside softwares. Like it is really easy to transcribe stuff. And it costs virtually nothing. And so you can build content really quickly. But the problem I see most coaches run into is they try to get fancy. And it's just like educate. Just like you have a client in front. Most coaches are awesome. If they have a client in front of them and someone asks them a question, like they do beautifully. But the second like they're in a different space or they're sitting down with a blank piece of paper, it's like I don't know what to do. And so ask yourself those questions that your clients would ask you and just answer the questions. And then we can always refine them down the road and make them a little bit better.
Yeah, I mean, I think there's a lot of pieces in there. I mean, so we're recording this on Riverside, right?
Mm-hmm.
Riverside is a free transcription service. Anybody, you don't
100%.
even have an account. Just put your video in there and it transcribes it for you. It's so easy these days. And just kind of going back real quick. So I'm a writer, right? Trevor said he likes to go video first. I like to go written first because that just helps flesh out things in my mind easier than just talking. what I do is I use AI to kind of fight with me and question me on certain things. So we've heard about all this concept these days of AI content is generic. Everybody kind of sounds the same when they use AI, which I think is true. The one thing you have going for you is number one, your point of view, and number two, your stories. So anytime I am sitting down to flesh out a topic or an article or anything like that, I have a special AI project I use that kind of pushes back on me, and it questions me time and time again of what's your unique point of view and what's a personal story that you have that backs this up. And if I can't provide one, it doesn't help me write an article because it's just going to sound like everybody else's stuff. Like I need to have something personal in there. I need to have something that's controversial or just slightly different point of view, or at least something that I can connect with that just doesn't sound like everybody else's generic stuff pushing out there. So I'd highly, highly encourage you to start setting things up like that and use AI to push back against you. Use it as a thinking partner, not just write me an article about weight loss. Like nobody's going to resonate with that. Make sure it has you coming through it as much as possible.
I love that. I love it. I mean, that's really the power of AI is using it as like a personal assistant that brainstorms with you, that works with you, that edits for you, that writes first drafts. Lots of ways to utilize it as another human being, essentially.
Yeah.
So the other thing, and we'll cover this one quickly because I like to keep these episodes a little bit shorter, is a lot of coaches are just getting started, right? That are part of our world, and they maybe don't have a lot of clients yet, and we're talking about content today, so a lot of people are going to probably come away with this. So I need to win the internet, right? I need to like be social famous, Facebook famous, Insta famous, whatever, right? And the truth of the reality is that the vast majority of really, really successful coaches are not internet famous, right? They may start to get there over time, but most coaches get great in an offline world and then they start sharing some of that stuff and then they become more famous maybe in an online world if they even get there. I bet the vast majority of the best coaches in the world aren't even known by the vast majority of people because they just work in their little world and they do great work. And so, but we need to build a business. And so like when we're coaching, we need to find ways to get our message out to the people that can benefit from it. And my guess is if you just drew a circle around where you live, let's call it like an hour in each direction, right? We can go a little bit bigger, is you could find enough clients 10 times over in that circle to create an incredible business that fit who you want to work with. And the fastest way to get to those people is in person. And this concept of borrowed audiences is if you're a new coach, this should be the thing that you try to dive as deep as possible into. Is I know my ICP, I have my offers, I have my micro commitments, all that stuff is dialed in. Where do these people live? Okay, where do they hang out? Where do they shop? What groups are they part of? And then the next question is who is in control of that audience? Who is the shopkeeper? Who is the admin for the Facebook group? Who is the president of the club, right? And then once we know who that is, now we can find ways to interact with that person and think from a value first standpoint. How do I provide value to said organization or person that they then allow me to come into their group and provide value to the group? I'm not coming in there to get clients. I'm coming in there to provide value. And through that value that I provide, people will become interested in what I do, which then allows me to have that conversation. Right. And so it's really just starting to make a list. What are the local groups, Lions clubs, entrepreneur groups, Rotary clubs? Like if we don't know our ICP, this is why we talk about it first, is you don't know where to look. Right. And we end up just spinning our wheels and talking to the wrong people. Right. If I am someone that specializes in male transformation, me speaking to the moms group in town probably isn't. Information might be relevant, but that's not necessarily who I work with, right? And so it just helps you to be specific, and then it helps you to know where to look.
So I thought a question just pop up. What's ICP, Trevor?
Oh, ideal client profile is what the term we've used. Perfect client, ideal client. Like everyone tries to put their own spin on it, but it's like, who do you want to work with, or who do you work with, and what problems do they have? Right? Do we know them at a really deep level?
And if you go back to watch our first episode of this month, I think it was August, technically, we talk a lot about how to figure that out. What we call the 3-ring prospect, like starts geographic restrictions. What geographic restrictions do you have? Which is similar to what Trevor's just talking about. Um, look at that. I think
The
I gotta
hearts.
get rid of those hearts, those reactions. Those always kill me. Um, but even if you work online, you still have geographic restrictions. Like
Mhm.
every single person does, no matter what. And it might be, sure, I'm only online. I don't have an actual physical location, but you're still going to be primarily North America, probably, US and Canada. You're still going to be English speaking people. You're still going to be probably, bigger cities, maybe even. And then after geographic, you're going to talk about demographics. What type of job do they have? Are they male, female, ages, income levels? And then finally, psychographics. What is their mindset? What status are they trying to, achieve? Are they in the right mindset to actually buy right now or not? And so once you get that bullseye of those 3 things, that's your ideal client profile, persona, perfect customer, whatever you want to call it. It doesn't matter, but that's how you get there.
So hopefully this gives you a little bit of framework in either re-looking at your market. Maybe you haven't gotten any traction, right? And you've been putting stuff out there. It's worth going back through this and have I dialed in each piece? Because if you're missing a piece, things aren't going to work as well as they should. Or you're a brand new coach and you're looking at building a business, these are the questions we need to ask. We need to dial each of these in so that we have the foundation of an actual business and we're not just out here throwing things and hoping that they stick. And then once we have those 3 things in, really looking at our content strategy, find your strength, written, video, go all in on that and build out that content bank, which to be honest, like I think if someone really sat down and did the work within a month, you could have that stuff created, right? And so you can work as quickly or as long as you want through this stuff, but the faster you get it done, now we have all these micro pieces that come out of the big pieces, right? That's a good way to think about it. You record one 60-minute podcast episode, 60 minutes of your time, but my guess is you're going to have a ton, probably 10, 15 micro pieces of content that come out of that larger piece. So, if you missed any of the episodes, go back through them. The order is set up in a very specific way to help you be successful. And then if you have questions, that's what we're here for. That's why we do this essentially free coaching every single week inside of the group on Vimeo. And like it's all there for you free. Just you have to go and take action. So, any last pieces of advice, Kane?
I mean, just start, right? I think you said it best. Like, just don't get overwhelmed by this. It's not actually that much work. It might seem like it, but like, just
Mhm.
start, get something out the door right away, and then learn and tweak. Right. I think we talk a lot about consistency. I mean, we're obviously a habit building software. We talk about consistency. But I think there's one thing people don't get exactly perfect in there. Blind consistency is just as bad as the no consistency. What I mean by that is if you don't learn, right? If you
Mhm.
don't actually iterate, if you don't actually change things and get better and improve over time. I mean, both Trevor and I played college basketball. I can't tell you, I don't know about you, Trevor. Growing up, I think it was through a calendar year, we'd have to shoot like 100,000 shots, right? Like if we both went back and actually calculate the number of shots we've taken over our lifetime, it's probably in the millions, honestly,
Yeah, absolutely.
combined. And if we wouldn't have like tweaked, we wouldn't have said, oh, that one rolled off my index finger wrong. I need to do something better that time. Oh, my elbow was a little bit off that time. If we wouldn't have tweaked it over time and got better and better, we never would have played college basketball, right? We would have been
Hmm.
shooting terrible like we were as 5-year-olds still.
Hmm.
And so this consistency is super important, but you have to iterate. I don't think it's necessarily the 10,000 hours. I think it's like 10,000 iterations you're learning from. That's what you need to do. So make sure you're creating content, you're learning what your audience is saying, you're getting feedback, you're making it better. It's going to suck right away. All of it does. Just make sure it gets better time and time.
I love it. That's awesome. So we're here every Tuesday around noon, and then you can always catch the recordings in our emails if you want to catch those. Priya asked about office hours. Typically, they're at 11 a.m. on Wednesdays and Thursdays, but
12
is
on
it 12 for you?
Thursdays. 12 on
So
Thursdays.
11 a.m. on Wednesdays, 12 on Thursdays, and that's all central times.
Central. Yep.
So typically they're there, but if you get there and there's no one there, if something else came up or something's going on, And so if you have any questions, the Facebook group is always a great place to put that question. We've got a lot of really smart people, very helpful coaches in there at all different stages. And so definitely drop it there. And then that allows us to come in and help give our opinion in a greater setting that could help some other people as well. And so Priya, those links should always pop up inside of Coach Catalyst pretty close to that time. You'll see them as a little header. So yeah, that's all we got. Until next Tuesday. Thanks for hanging out. See you guys.